All right. Welcome everybody to today's discussion about social media influencers. We appreciate you being here. Before I introduce Sailor and we get sort of jump into the discussion, I want to remind you of two things real quickly. We certainly would love for you to consider joining ADI if you're not a member already. There's lots of member benefits, including access to our online resources, the 3 distiller magazines a year, one of the printed resource directories. And of course, you get discounts at our annual conference, which I think we're announcing this week where that will be, our annual conference, and then the spirits competition, which is currently accepting submissions. So if you're interested in entering the spirits competition and you're going to enter more than one or two things, you just almost be foolish not to join first and take advantage of those savings. The other thing is, as always, we'll have a Q&A at the end of this. So if you have any questions as we go along, you can throw them into the chat or into the Q&A field, and I will pitch those questions to Sailor at the end of our discussion. And with that, thanks again for being here. Sailor, thank you for being here. And for those that don't know, why don't you catch us up to speed on sort of your industry history and why you're here, other than I know your history, which is exactly why you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today. This is a subject that I feel very strongly about and built a company out of it. I started out on the streets, pounding the pavement. I was a brand ambassador. I was a bartender for a long time. I worked for the distributor. I worked for emerging brands, big brands. And I actually built my own social following by being out on the streets representing brands. It was a way for me to remain connected to people and, continue the discussion. And the moment I realized people were interested in staying connected to me so they could stay connected to the brand, I was like, there's something to this. I don't spend a lot of time on my own social media these days, but I it really happened organically that I got into social marketing and digital marketing, and that was during the pandemic. I was faced with the prospect of trying to figure out how to continue to sell the whiskey that I was representing without leaving my house. I was watching my colleagues and industry shrink and people being laid off and furloughed. And so it was kind of out of anxiety that I had to figure out really quickly how to move the needle just through digital spaces. And I just continued doing it after, we kind of came out of our houses. And I recognized that there was a really great need for this, especially for the craft space and emerging brands. And so that's what I do now.
So, a lot of distilleries, whether they've been in business for 5 minutes or 5 years, what we tend to hear from other industry people, as far as lay people who they see what other brands are doing. People love to come into our tasting rooms and say, "Hey, I know what y'all need. Y'all need a blank," right? And sometimes that blank is, social media influencer, if they know how to use that term, or y'all need some help on social media, or you need somebody, doing this or that. Is that a valid piece of advice for most everybody starting off? And if so, how do you try and find somebody that you feel is a good pick for your brand?
Great question. So before I get into that, I just want to say one thing, because what I find often is the lack of respect for social marketing, digital marketing, and social commerce. So let's just get that out of the way right now. If you're already eye rolling at the thought of it, or you're like, ugh, influencer, which has kind of become a pejorative term, you and I are influencers because we're influencing this conversation. That's really all that means. So it's not about taking nice photos and posting bottle shots. It's not about just making sure you do it because you have to. I hear that a lot. Well, I don't really know anything about it. I've got someone in my distillery that does it. They take pictures, whatever, because I have to do it. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, and you're, I think, losing out on an incredible opportunity. Social media is digital marketing, and it's one of the most accessible and powerful channels for advertising and marketing for most brands these days. So successful social media digital marketing and social commerce takes an entire marketing approach. It doesn't take one person who does really great TikTok videos or, Instagram photos. It takes a lot more than that. Quarterly plans, scheduling campaigns, constant research and data mining, and staying up on trends. Social media has evolved so much in the past 2 years, even that it's mind blowing. It's an ever evolving and changing and growing. All the platforms change and grow and kind of mirror behaviors and they create behaviors. But this is where your consumers live. So it's something that is really, really critical to your brand. So if you have people coming into your tasting room and saying, oh, you should do this on social media and that on social media, I would ask some questions. Who better than to ask consumers what they're seeing, what they're not seeing, and what they want to see? This is all important and relevant information. Do you see our posts regularly? Let's see what they say. Do you see our stories regularly? What platforms do you spend most of your time on? That's also really important because social media means Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. There's also there's Threads and Blue Sky, and is there still Twitter? I don't really think so. What do you focus on? What channels are important to you? So it's valid for people to give you their impression, especially your own consumers, on what your social media looks like to them. So, take it with a grain of salt, but really everyone should have an expert on board that either consults or runs their digital marketing, in my opinion.
Without throwing somebody, I don't mean anybody specific, but without throwing up and coming or burgeoning digital marketing or influencer people under the bus, like what is the earmark of knowing that you're talking to somebody who really has their act together and not, somebody that just, is it the lack of the kind of comprehensive planning that you just mentioned? If you're talking to somebody who might be your digital person and they don't have that quarterly plan or don't suggest that, if they say, well, I'll just take some really nice pictures 3 times a week, that's kind of an oversimplified argument, but you know where I'm going. How do you separate the serious people? How do you try with that divining rod to find who's going to actually do a good job and who's just going to kind of mess around and give you some content?
Does your social media lead to social commerce? Does it help your e-commerce? Because I feel like we have this idea, well, you can't sell things through social media. What? Huh? Have you lost your mind? So social commerce will surpass $100 billion in 2026. So if you have e-commerce platform, you better get your act together on social media because that is what's driving the needle. Now, I would say how much social commerce should you expect versus brand awareness? This is a difficult thing, right? You're going to spend a lot of money on brand awareness, and that can feel painful. Like, I don't see direct sales coming from this. Well, you don't see direct sales from making the visits to the on-premise either, or visiting your distributor sometimes. Does it mean you shouldn't have done it? That's really up to you. You should expect some some sales to come from your social media. And if the person talking to you or pitching themselves as someone to help you with your social media does not have that as a part of their program, to me, that is a problem because we do have to make sales from all of our marketing and advertising efforts. Otherwise, what are we doing? Brand awareness is a part of it, yes, but sales are as well.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Because I agree with you that it's kind of, you got to be hanging the shingle out to where you can do some e-commerce and that brand awareness and all of those things sort of lead that way. But I also think, unfortunately, in our business, everybody's ROI is a little murky sometimes. I bet even the big boys pull their hair out on a quarterly basis over this was the spend, but can we draw a direct line?
Sure.
Once you make the decision to get into the digital commerce or just digitally creative to get the word out about your brand, what do you think is a reasonable period of time to give a relationship with someone in that marketing world or a social media influencer? Because it's not going to be a week, but you're going to want to see something inside of 18 months, a year, or something like that. What do you, in your experience, what do you think as a minimum you should try something before holding it up to the light and seeing if it works or not?
Okay, so let's just clarify here. An influencer should not be handling your digital marketing. That's one. An influencer is
Okay.
merely there for campaign purposes. Build relationships with influencers, 100%. And you had asked me, you had sent me a few questions beforehand. How can a craft distillery identify the right type of influencer for its brand values and target audience? So let's put these in two different buckets. So, number
Okay.
one, whoever is responsible for your social media, again, digital marketing, it needs to be all of your digital marketing in one. Social media is just one part of it. So that means ad spends, ad buys, that means, creating campaigns. This is marketing. Now, your influencers are over here. They are one marketing tool that you can tap into. And so the first step is to know who are your colleagues. I hate to use the word competitors because I just don't think that's how it works for us. So who are your colleagues using? Go out and take a look at brands that you aspire to be or brands that are your size, your compatriots, your friends' brands. Look at who's tagging them in social media. Look at any posts from other people that they've been reposting or have shown up on their feed. Do your research, or again, hopefully you're working with a marketing team or person that understands and knows. Like I know I have a database of thousands of influencers as I work with them for different brands on a regular basis. And I have a core list of people that I know really well and really trust, and they'll do just about anything for me and the same for them. And we have great relationships. Influencing is all about relationships, just like it is in person. We used to use that term kingmaker, remember? Think of
Mm-hmm.
influencers as kingmakers. And brands have built themselves, I'll tell you, off of social media marketing and influencers. Now, when you decide to work with an influencer, know your goals. And if you don't understand what goals to know, again, you need a marketing person on your team. So, what do you want out of it? Are you working with this influencer just for brand awareness? One influencer is not going to cut it. Is this a campaign to drive sales, whether in person or drive traffic to your distillery or your tasting room or for e-commerce sales? What's your goal? And then you're going to work with your marketing person, or they're going to tell you, like I develop strategies quarterly for all of my clients. Okay, this is my idea. This is what we're going to do. This is what we should expect from it. So if you're trying to drive sales, it's kind of like guerrilla marketing. You should see a return right away. If you're driving brand awareness, that's a longer game, and you should be doing both in tandem, of course. So it really depends on what you want out of it. Also, how long has your brand been around? What are you trying to achieve? Do you have new releases, or do you need to get yourself on the map? What's going on with your brand at the time? You need someone to really evaluate where you're at and what your needs really are. Obviously, we all need money to come in. We all want cash flow. We all want to look at when we, pay that marketing person every month. Well, what have we gotten out of it? That can be really challenging, just like you said, for any brand to understand. But if you have a product that you sell, you have to advertise and market that product forever and always. Charmin toilet paper, they still market and advertise their product. Pepsi still markets and advertises their product. You're always looking to connect with new consumers as other consumers, especially for us, age out. So should be a forever piece of your budget. What is your marketing budget like? How much of it goes into social marketing and how much of it goes into digital marketing? And then how much of that do you set aside I believe, in a campaign format for working with influencers?
I think there's a lot of people in the craft space because, and it doesn't apply to everybody, but I think there's a lot of people that that to them as owners, of a brand or as, civilian customers of craft brands, there's this inherent, whatever you want to call it, boosted level of authenticity when you're a craft brand as opposed to, a big brand that you see everywhere. Or how do you get people over the hump? Or do you think there's even a hump to get over for some people that feel like when they hear from somebody that they should be doing something on TikTok, that feels like it runs against, all of the beating of their chest that they've done for, grain to glass and uber authenticity and those sorts of things. Is there a balance there? How do you talk to clients about that when they bristle at being on? And I'm 53. If I had to start doing something on TikTok right now, there'd be a learning curve, right? So
Yeah. So I'm 52, so I learn every day. I employed some gals that are much younger than me because they know all the verbiage and all the trends and the things and the POVs that I didn't know. So I had to learn quick. I'll forever be learning. You said something that kind of makes me laugh because I have a dear friend in the industry who he has this talk that he gives, which is called Nobody Gives a Shit About Your Brand. It's hilarious. It's so smart. You may know who I'm talking about. I adore this person. And he really touches on, how much do these things matter to consumers that matter so deeply to us? Another reason you should have a third party doing your marketing because I have a pool of clients, because I've been in the industry for so long, I do know what people give a, sorry if it's all right for me to, if it's a rated R webinar, I know what consumers give a shit about and don't. I have a pretty good
yeah,
idea. So you really need someone to be able to be honest with you and tell you, well, these things are critical to your marketing, and all these things are critical to you. I'm going to break your heart a little bit and tell you it's really not what's going to move the needle when it comes to your marketing. It's not the most important thing for us to talk about. And be smart and listen when the experts tell you those things. I care about my clients. Yes, I want them to keep me employed, sure. So that's important. I'm going to try to always do what's right so I can stay in my job. But I also care about them because I care about my industry and I want to see people succeed. Now, as far as the authenticity part goes, I'm going to use the whiskey space and the tequila space as two examples because I feel like they have the strongest cohesive pool of influencers that a lot of us, many of us know, and a lot of the same brands use the same influencers. These people become your trusted sources. So build relationships with them, incentivize them regularly, reach out to them on a personal level. Don't just send PR pitches and don't just come into their DMs like, hey, I want to give you a bottle. Will you do this work for free? It is work. Be clear that what influencers are doing is work. Have you tried to make an Instagram video or write an Instagram post? Do a quick, like, am I going to get all the stats and the vitals right on this whiskey or this tequila? Do I have all the information correct? I'm going to give my impression of this spirit without being negative about it. It's not necessarily a review, but it kind of is. And I'm going to say what I think about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the people that make it. You guys, this takes time. It takes work. It is work. So build relationships, be good to these people. They'll be good back to you. They're going to help you market your brand. And if they are good influencers, they are that trusted source. And consumers that follow them will go, oh, well, Joe over here, I trust his opinion. I trust when he says something's good or when he says these people behind the brand are good, which by the way is very important right now. So yeah, I'm going to check this out the next time I go make a purchase. I'm going to put it on my list. I'm going to consider this. That's a real thing that happens, and it's an important thing that happens. But also what's interesting is if you send out 10 bottles, let's say, to 10 different influencers, I always put bullet points and notes. So I don't want them to have to spend hours doing research or feel like they don't have enough information. I want to make it as easy as I possibly can for them to make great content. see what they all choose from your bullet points. And I always say, choose whatever bullet points you want. You may use this information or not. Want to make it easy. Like, who are we? What is this? What's cool about it? What's different? What's unique? Where does it come from? Whatever, whatever. How do you use it? Also very important. And see what they all pick. You're going to find a thread in that. And that can also help you with your marketing, but that's also authentic because they chose to talk about what they felt like were the most important aspects of your product.
Yeah, two quick things. It is very important, I think, for any marketing plan, but particularly one that is, whether you want to think of it as non-traditional or not, your point, and I think it's a good one, is that it isn't non-traditional, it is status quo, and you better get with the program. But for a lot of people, it feels non-traditional. You kind of have to get out of your own way. Not too long ago, I was working with a brand that thought their number one customer was sport fishermen. Okay. You know what most sport fishermen don't have on their boats? Glass bottles of whiskey rolling around.
Yeah.
So, like it's okay. Like I get where you're coming from, but you also have to dig a little deeper. And I like your it reminds me of the analogy. I've been in bands forever. When you're paying an influencer, you're not just paying or anybody on any marketing team really, but you're not just paying them to take a bottle and make this post. Just like when you pay a band to come in and play on Friday night for 3 hours, you're not just paying them for the 3 hours, you're paying them for learning those songs and practicing them to the point that they don't suck when they get up in front of your 500 people. It's all of those other links in the chain.
Yes.
And we talked about murky ROI, but what metrics, when you're talking about awareness, sales, whether it comes from the marketing program or not, if you're doing marketing mission X and you look at sales growth, sometimes maybe the best you can do is figure out that this is helping this somehow or another. We're not exactly sure what the direct conduits are. But when you're talking about brand awareness, because, there's impressions, there's likes, there's views, which I think in certain cases only have to be 3 seconds to count as a view. What metrics do either you pay most attention to on behalf of your clients, or do you preach to clients are the ones that really to keep your eye on for brand awareness or for that influencer relationship?
That's a very good question. All of them. My answer is all of them. Yeah. So I pay for a very, very expensive program, piece of software that I use to track, to schedule, to post, and to track everything that happens on all of the channels my clients are on. So that's what I focus on. And then I have people that work for me that are the content creators. So I'm paying attention to everything. So I can give you an example from one of my clients. I just happened to take a peek at their ad impressions. Now, this is Meta Ads, and they do not have a big budget. We spend, if I'm lucky, they allow me to spend $175 a month, which is nothing, right? But it's good enough to push the needle. So Meta Ads do two things. Hopefully they drive sales, or they can drive traffic to your local establishment. They also help boost your social media overall on Meta platforms. They have nearly 1 million ad impressions this year from just $175 a month. Now, is that enough to justify the spend? Absolutely not. Have I also seen e-commerce sales go up? Have we also seen website traffic? What does website traffic look? I have to have my hands in all of that stuff. I can look at their e-commerce dashboards. I can see, we use Meta Pixels. I can track all of this stuff. I also use special discount codes with influencers and then on Meta Ads so that I'm tracking all of this. You should see everything go up if your social media is healthy. So it's kind of like, it's all connected. You're right about the views and the impressions. So impressions and views are important, right? Likes, not so much anymore. We have what's called the scroll factor now, and people aren't always engaging as far as like touching a post, we call it, clicking on it, touching it. So we have some strategies to push for actual engagement. And again, these are different types of content and different campaigns. One week, I might say, we're going to focus on actual comment engagement. What type of content do we have to post to get people to actually comment? What type of influencers do we have to work with to get comment engagement or to push sales? So, a couple of things I just want to review real quick so everybody understands. Gen Z are people born between 1997 and 2012. These are not teenagers, just so everybody's clear. I know the older I get, I can't tell what age anybody is anymore. I am not your target demographic. I'm 52 years old. I'm aging out of drinking, right? I mean, I hope I can drink until the day I drop, but my pool is kind of aging out. You had better be going after those Gen Zs right now and also starting to pay attention to Gen Alpha. Look at your influencers. Number one, everybody forgets about women. Hi, I'm here. People of color. Hello, they're here too. Pay attention to us. So make sure you're working with influencers that have a diverse following or you have diversification inside your influencers because the people that are smart enough to market to people of color and to women, because we're marginalized, even though I am the mega shopper in my family, in my household, as are most women, you have less competition there. So really smart to market to those people when you're in demographics when you're in spirits. 74% of Gen Z shoppers spend the bulk of their free time online, and their primary product discovery channel is social media. So know all of these things. This stuff is really, really important. So I would say, figuring out what you want from everything you do. And again, this is why I think you need to have a smart partner that can help you and support you in these things, that has marketing experience, that understands all these channels, that's looking at and studying all of the metrics and can put it together for you in a way that makes sense, either on a monthly or quarterly basis when they deliver reports to you. And then also, you're working with someone that, listen, this is social media. It can change from day to day. A trend can be here today, 6-7, 6-7. I'm sure you might have heard of all this stuff. There's all these trends, right? I will change my strategy sometimes on a weekly basis, which is crazy, it sounds like, but I'm kind of like used to it now and in the groove. But I'm evaluating on a consistent basis what is working and what's not working because my clients expect and demand, as they should, results, whatever those results are. So I have to make sure I'm constantly delivering results, whatever those results might be.
I'm going to back us way up because, and this isn't part of what, but I'm going to, I know you'll have something to say about this, and I think it's important, and it'll be good guidance. Before anybody does any of these things, right, they have to determine as smartly and strategically as possible who their strategic audience or customer is. And if you make whiskey, it can't be people between 21 and death who buy whiskey. You gotta drill deeper. Talk about that a little bit. Because that'll help you choose. That'll help you choose your marketing plan, your marketing spend when it comes to specific influencers. So, can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. So raise your hand if you didn't do any market research before you started your brand. I can't see you guys, but I know it's almost every single one of my current clients. Almost every single one of them did zero research. I think we have this idea, well, everybody drinks that's of age, or everybody that drinks, and all those drinkers will potentially like what I have. Not true at all. Absolutely not true. I mean, I remember the days when selling American whiskey, people told me I was crazy. American whiskey, nobody's gonna drink that. And I was like, what? What do you mean? It was wild to imagine the consumption of tequila and for American consumers to be as educated about tequila as they are now. People would have smacked me in the face 15 years ago if I had said this. Please do your research or employ someone that understands how to do research like this. Who is your micro consumer and your macro consumer? and it changes. So continue to pay attention to who is buying your products and who should be or might be buying your products. Now, we have a lovely thing if you have a tasting room. We have these fantastic oh, I'm losing the word. Your cashier thing. Why can't I think of the word?
POS system?
Right out of my head. Thank you, POS.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can get so much data out of these things. So zip codes are really important, just like with social media as well. You can get gender information, you can get age information. You know, Facebook is known as the old people's platform for that is absolutely true. You can believe that. Don't believe what people say about TikTok. TikTok is a very viable space we should all be in. But you can see these things for yourself in black and white in all of the insights. So pay attention to that. You know, what I say to everyone is to my clients, send me your reports quarterly from your tasting room so I can see who these people are that are coming to your tasting room and are actually buying things, or even more interesting, don't buy things but they just drink there, let's say, right? And I want to see how that aligns with the data I'm getting from digital marketing. So I want to see that like correlation, that full circle. You know, what is driving that traffic? What are the behaviors the same? Are we reaching the, so let's see, everybody that's coming to your tasting room is like 28 to 40, but we're over here marketing to people that are 45 to 50. What are we doing? You know, we're already resonating with this people. Let's go for it on, social media and digital marketing. And all of a sudden we see a higher return. All of that information is really important. But my friends, when you start a spirits brand, research and really dig into one, what does the market need and want right now? And who needs and wants what you are going to make? And can you sell it? And how will you sell it? And where will you sell it? What will people do with it? You know, you have to have all of that stuff worked out before hopefully you launch your brand. And if that hasn't happened, that's okay. There are people like me and many other people, consultants out there in the industry that can kind of, for lack of a better term, rip your brand apart and take it down to the studs and then build it back up again and then take a look at that and see what does that look like. You know, do we need to make a shift in marketing? Do we need to make a shift in your line? And that happens a lot. Maybe you shouldn't be producing XYZ anymore. You should be producing this. You know, what are people drinking most? What do people in your area want or your demographic that you're already hitting? What do those people want and how do they use your product? A lot of this information can actually be found through your digital channels.
And don't get until you talk to somebody who really is an expert in marketing. Don't get so committed to your own. You know, I was in the food business for a long time. I think I've probably said this before on other webinars, but I opened up this Irish pub back where I used to live, and they refused to put fish and chips on the menu. And they told me, well, you know, fish and chips is actually British and instead of Irish, and we don't eat it anyway because we don't like fish and chips. And I was like, God, I love you, but I'm not telling you. I'm telling you what you can sell. I'm not. The other two things, you know, you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. And they said, you know, and they put up a big fight. And I was like, you know, listen, let me give you an example. The Caesar salad was invented in Mexico City, but I'll kiss your ass if you show me an Italian restaurant menu that doesn't have it on there. So, you know, again, we all love our brands. We all are highly invested in the story. And, you know, this is a larger marketing issue, but I'm sure you've been down this road with clients and other people in the business. The story doesn't necessarily, when you talk about change or switching things up, the core story doesn't necessarily always need to change, but the nuances and the ways in which you deliver that story can be refreshed and changed from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't be afraid of a rebrand. I mean, I know it can be costly sometimes, but take a look, you guys, I would say, at a brand like Monkey Shoulder. Now, I used to sell and serve Monkey Shoulder, and I certainly was not talking about disco balls and 20-something-year-olds making cocktails with monkey shoulder. That was not what the brand wanted me to talk about. I was talking about the history of Scotch. I was talking about blend is not bad, blend can be good. I was talking about where the term monkey shoulder comes from. And you know what? A 28-year-old doesn't give a crap. They could care less. They want to know, why is this yummy? Why is it priced right for me? What do I do with it? Why is it special? And will it be fun? Will it be an experience? Now go look at the Monkey Shoulder website and tell me what you see. Go look at a
Hmm.
lot of our, major brands, global major brands, and look at the recent rebrands that they've done. And take a gander at that and go, does that appeal to me, or did their old branding appeal to me? And how old am I? And it's going to help you understand that even the big guys do it. So you might be in need of a rebrand, and hopefully your trusted consultant will tell you that. Will say, we need to make a shift. I've done that with several of my clients. And it's not that you've done something wrong. It's not that you aren't going to love your brand as much as you did before, but I want you to sell your products and make money and stay healthy because I care. And sometimes that's what needs to happen.
And I will say to the other brand owners on this call, having done that, it's it's not fun. But putting a roof on your house isn't fun either. But you got to do it every 15 years. I mean,
That's right.
to be told by somebody that this thing that you love so much and that top to bottom and that you've invested so much in is stale or is missing the mark is a hard thing for a brand owner to hear. But we all have to hear
Yeah.
it. We all have to hear it from time to time.
Yeah,
So,
and don't take it as an insult. And I
right.
think it depends on how the message is delivered. I mean, most of my clients knew me before they took me on. Some that are new to me, I explain, like, listen, I may sound like a bulldozer, but I'm not. This is all heart. It's all love. I want to get to things quicker and faster without having to fuss around and fart around with feelings, because in the end, this is business. And I'm doing this because I care, right? My love language is service. So that's what I tell them all. Try to separate yourself from that emotional piece of it. I'll come back to that emotion in the marketing, because emotional connections and with consumers right now are incredibly relevant. We'll get back to that, but you really sometimes have to step back and say, you know what? It's not working great right now, so let's just go for it. If we can do better, let's do better. And that makes you a really smart business person.
In addition to looking at the ROI and looking at all these metrics and seeing what their impact is, or God forbid isn't, on case sales and awareness in general, there's also legal implications to advertising alcohol, in the advertising of it, in the compensation sometimes of people that are doing it. And I
Hmm.
know that the TTB recently put out a little extra guidance on that. If that's not on somebody's mind that's about to do this, it should be.
Yeah,
So can you talk a little bit about that?
absolutely. Let me first say I am not a liquor lawyer and I don't play one on TV. I'm not an expert in compliance. I just want to make that clear. I
Well,
always tell, go ahead.
I was going to say, then let's say best practices as you understand
There we
them.
go. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I always tell my clients to reach out to their liquor lawyer. We all have one, and ask them what their point of view is at the moment. Looking at the TTB guidelines is horseshit. It doesn't really tell you a whole lot. It's such a generality. It blows my mind. Here's what I say. I do everything that I can do to make sure that we are at a comfort level that I believe is right, and that my clients are comfortable with. And some of them have different comfort levels, and that's okay. It's their business. It's their liability. You always want to ensure that it says must be 21 plus to follow on all of your social channels, right? If you're doing digital ads, please make sure that you're always putting that age group 21 plus. Always, always, always. Make sure that you know that the influencers you're working with are 21. You might want to also make sure that even when you send out gift bottles or samples, that you're sending it so that a ID signature has to happen. Not all brands do it. I receive like bottles every day. Some do it, some don't. Doesn't bother me either way. That's their comfort level. If you are going to be paying an influencer, and that's something that we didn't talk about, you don't always have to pay influencers. That is something that you should know. Again, it's really about relationships. It's about what type of content they will deliver and what you want out of that partnership and out of that content. If you are going to pay an influencer, and these fees can range anywhere from $200 to $5,000, I will say for probably all of the brands in the room with us, I would not pay more than a couple $100s. I just don't think that content at unless you have national distribution and you're available in every Target and every Total Wine and every whatever, I don't really think that level of mega influencer is really going to do much for you. If you exchange money, please have a contract. You can ask your attorney, just make a contract that you can just change every time. Or if you're comfortable with just an email outlining, this is what we expect from you, this is what you can expect from us, you'll be paid, at this date. Some people say, I want it up front because they'll get screwed over by brands and have in the past, which is super unfair, and vice versa. Again, vet these influencers, make sure they're trusted, ask your friends, ask other industry people if you see them with other brands' bottles, they're probably okay. Just make sure you do all that due diligence and that you have a written agreement of some sort that you can say this is what we expected and that you say in there, this bottle is for you and we trust that when you receive it, you will not share it with anyone under 21 or whatever. But most people agree, and most of the liquor lawyers I talk to are like, listen, once you send them the bottle, it's not on you what they do with it. It really isn't. I mean, if they do something silly with it on social media and tag you in it, sure. But I really don't think that's a liability issue for you anymore, more like a reputation thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think I forget where I saw it, but there's when you people that are in this space, if you don't know this, there's certain communication guidelines that I can't say XYZ brand is now served at Old Kentucky Bourbon Bar in Covington, Kentucky. I have to mention them and two other places. It's just that rule of three. I'm not saying I don't see it violated every single day,
I know.
every day, but generally, but as you point out, how much risk are you comfortable with? I mean,
yeah.
I say this not on behalf of ADI, but on behalf of John Foster. I mean, if you're going to sell whiskey, you're going to sell liquor in America, you're going to run into some gray areas every now and then, and it's just a matter of how comfortable you are. So back to vetting real quickly. Is it fair game to ask an influencer that you're considering for references from other brands? I mean, is that something that's done? Like when you say make sure you vet them, how do you do it other than check out what they're doing?
So here's the thing. Not all brands are kind and not all influencers are kind, right? So you may come up against, a brand that's like, oh, I worked with them and they didn't give me, and I've actually had this happen. They didn't do what we want. It wasn't worth it. Ugh. And I'm like, okay. And so I happen to know the influencer. So I talk them through it and they're like, yeah. So they sent me a bottle for free. I posted about it. I said, this is this whiskey. This is where it comes from. And they didn't say anything negative. I went back. I looked at the video or the post. It looked just fine. I don't know what the hell you're expecting for a free bottle, but the brand was like, oh, we didn't get, they only did one post. And I'm like, well, did they say they were going to do more? Because that's unusual for a free bottle. And we didn't get anything out of it. I'm like, what did you expect to get out of it exactly? So, again, clear communication is critical here. And please have reasonable expectations on both sides. I would just say, look at their channel, watch a bunch of their videos, read their posts, see if you feel like they connect with you. Like, oh yeah, this person seems to be a reflection of my consumer base. This person seems to be an authority and well liked. I see him or her do a lot of, posts about other brands and they seem to keep sending him or her stuff. Great. Then looks good, depending on what you want to get out of it. If you're paying for an influencer, you know, again, I really just think it's about the relationship. I think, everything is a little bit of a risk. I wouldn't send someone hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you don't really know them well and don't have, they don't have a website with their fees listed. Like those are professional influencers. Typically, they all have websites or link trees, and their fees are listed, and your portfolio is there to see. So it's a little bit more of a professional approach. So it really just depends on that level of influencer.
I, I'll also add that I think in marketing in general, to the tune of a couple $100, especially if there's a short term contract or a month to month contract, sometimes you just got to take a flyer on something that feels good to you.
Yeah.
And support it and nurture it as best you can and see if it works out. I completely
Yep.
get what you're saying. They're like, we sent this person the bottle on Tuesday and Wednesday we didn't sell 20,000 cases.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
something's, it was a complete
Yes.
waste of time. Yeah,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
doesn't quite work out like that.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, are there broad strokes for small brands versus big brands? I get what you're saying, that it's good to pay attention to what some of the big brands are doing just to comprehend their rebrands and their the narrowing of their message. But
Mhm.
somebody that's just starting out that maybe has done the research work on who my target customer or my target demographic is. I guess both sides of this coin. Are there some broad strokes that you think people should consider? Are there some huge pitfalls that pretty much every small brand ought to not fall in? And maybe you can answer both of those, or one, and one shines light on the other. But you know where I'm going with that? Like, are there any sort of universal do's or don't do's for small up and coming brands?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certainly. I think if you're a small and upcoming brand, I implore you to work with some digital marketing experts. It may be a little painful in the pocket at first because you think, well, I have someone on my team that can do it, or we can do it ourselves and we'll save a lot of money. Is that really the right thing for an emerging brand to not spend on marketing your product? I don't think so. Where do you spend it? How do you spend it? How do you get the most return when your budget is small? There are people out there that understand how to do that. So I would say get some help. Um, I would say hiring someone, and I come across this a lot. Clients, potential clients will come to me and say, we've had a social media person or a certain type of agency that we've had for a year or two, and we've just been spinning our wheels. We don't understand. We're not getting anywhere. Nothing's changing. We don't understand why we're spending money on it. I'm like, what did you wait 2 years for? Why are you waiting 2 years? You're going to know within a couple of months. If you don't see growth in your channels, it's not working. You need to change tactics. And if you're the person running your social media and doing your digital marketing isn't willing to go, yeah, let's take a look at this together. Let's analyze this and see what changes need to be made. Ditch them and go with somebody else. Find somebody else. Again, ask around, ask friends, look at who industry people use. So I think that's really important to understand. Two, I've had this issue also with some clients. Let's say you have a vodka brand and you are idolizing other large vodka brands. You aspire to be like them, right? Or make, 10% of their sales. Just remember that when you are a global or national big brand product, some of these brands don't even have e-commerce, okay? They don't need it. They're in every single chain and liquor store across the country, right? Those are not the people you should be looking at. For campaigns, I would say yes. A lot of them do campaign marketing on digital spaces. So they keep up their social media just so that the algorithm won't think, well, we don't want to prioritize their content anymore because they haven't posted in a while. That's a real thing. And so they'll just post things, but then you'll see like around the holidays, whether it's, Valentine's Day, let's say, or the winter holidays, you see them all of a sudden they're posting a lot and, something's going on and it's cool stuff. That's a campaign that they've launched. Do study that. What is the point of it? What are they doing with it? What does it look like? How much activity are they getting on it? Ooh, we could do something similar to that, right? Like we could let's try to literally recreate what they're doing because it seems to be resonating with consumers that drink the products that we make. Certainly, that's something that you can use as an example and try to, build something similar to that. But make sure you understand when you're looking at other brands, what are their needs? Are their needs the same as yours or are they different? And make sure you incorporate that into your thought process when you're kind of aspiring to market like they are.
I've got one more specific kind of thing on my mind, and then we'll sort of wind down because we're coming up on an hour. Again, those of you that are on the webinar, if you have any questions or something you want to know more about, something like that, please let us know. We'll have a quick Q&A here in a few minutes. If we have some questions, you can throw those into the chat or into the Q&A field at the bottom. As you said, I think almost at the very beginning, everybody's trying to keep their lights on. The distilleries are trying to keep the lights on. The marketing team and influencers that it works in conjunction with are. But what do you think is, what's the best way to build a really good long-term relationship with somebody? Because if it's all just money, that, maybe that's the way to do it. But you kind of want people in, or at least we did. We wanted people that felt like they were in the family. I'm never happier than to see somebody get paid a lot for doing a lot. But are there other ways to sort of cultivate that long-term relationship with somebody that you do feel is working and adding to your business? How can you nurture that relationship and keep it going? What's important to an influencer other than the paycheck?
That's a really great question. And again, a lot of influencers in the craft space or that are accessible to us are not paid, right? So
Yeah.
God bless them. It's just understanding that it's a relationship that you have to care for. Stay in communication with them. Send them little gifts often. If you don't have new releases to send them, send them other things. Ask them what they like. Don't just fill up a box full of crap that's got your brand on it, because I can tell you, I have no more friends that want any of the stuff sometimes that people send me. And I donate it to the thrift stores. I'm like, I hope it helps the puppies and kittens. I don't know. Like, I cannot have any more keychains. I don't know what to do with stickers. I have 18 million trillion koozies. But there are some things that I love. Ask them. I love when the PR agencies or the marketing teams or the brands themselves ask me what I like. What size am I? I am a 5 foot tall little woman. Please do not send me a large t-shirt. It pisses me off because it's like you don't know me and don't care,
Right.
Or you can say, do you have a partner in your house that is this size that would like it? I'm sorry, we only have larges. At least acknowledge that. So what I always say to my brands and to my clients and what I do for them is we keep regular touch. I know the last time we've communicated with our influencers, we try to, if we see that they have birthdays, if someone says, you can see like, oh, I always tell my girls, look out for birthdays, holidays are coming up. Hey, we know you happen to be married, or we know that you're a Galentine's gal, and we'll send them little gifts. Just if you see that they've gone through something difficult, like they are people and these are relationships, they are your friends, and they can be huge, huge supporters of your brand. Invite them to your distillery if you have one, invite them to your tasting room. If you don't have a distillery or tasting room, maybe you have a farm or I don't know, whatever, invite them somewhere. Or if you happen to be in their neck of the woods, take them out for a meal, get to know them, stay in touch with them. I cannot tell you how important that is. And if they really like your product, say, well, it's been 2 months. They might have poured out our whiskey by now. Let's send them another bottle. It's been a while. This stuff goes a really long way to building real relationships. A lot of the influencers I work with, I've got some of them, they're also like into metal and I'm a metalhead. So, we'll talk about metal sometimes. I just open up conversations. I haven't talked to you in a while, touch base with them. What do we have in common? What's the commonality there? What's the commonality with the people who own the brand? Like I have a client that's in Texas. So all of my Texas influencers, I'm like, hey, let me know when I can have the gals take you out for dinner sometime and just treat you. They'd love to meet you and treat you. They don't have a distillery, they don't have a footprint in town, but they can take you out for a meal. This goes, I mean, you'll get miles out of this because you're caring for them, and therefore they're going to care for you and your brand. They're going to want to see you do well, and they're going to want to help you, and they have the power to help you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being on the call and all of this great advice. We did have a couple questions come in. So
Okay.
the first one is there a preferred format, or can you speak a little bit to the swing in difference between a pre-recorded clip that might be posted somewhere as opposed to going live? Is there an important distinction, or does one out leverage the other?
That's a really, really excellent question. And I did not think about including that in this. So great question. It depends on the platform, number one. Number two, what's the goal? I know that Instagram Live was a thing for a while. If you have a big following and you want to have like a Q&A with our distiller or a Q&A with our brand owner or whatever, those, again, I would research it. What have other people done? Um, YouTube does live, TikTok does live. TikTok shops are huge. We can't sell alcohol in them yet. Hopefully, maybe down the road we can do that. But you should have a clear understanding of what you want to achieve from this live. How long is it going to be? Have you promoted it well ahead of time? And that you have the ability to answer questions quickly and, like address what's going on? Or do you have someone you can go on the live with that will take the, kind of like you and I were doing, versus pre-recording? A pre-recording is going to have longer legs. So that's a longer term piece of content. Although you can record that live and also push that out as pre-recorded content. I always say a little mix of everything is really healthy for your social media channels. And then if you come across something that works really well, like let's say you do an Instagram live and only 10 people engage in it, I would say, well, you probably don't want to do that again, you know, but you put out a pre-recorded video of your master distiller answering like 5 common questions, and that does really well. Do that.
It's sort of like the same sort of thing. Like you roll into Chicago and post on Facebook, "Yo, I'm in Chicago. Let's all get together," and then nobody comments on your post. Yeah,
Yep. And
been there.
you're like whistling down the street. Doo doo doo. Well, all right. Maybe I should remove this post.
Oh man, I have a friend who says the only thing worse than staying at a party too long is being that person and not knowing that it's you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
absolutely.
I'm going to try and reduce the Mike asked a question, and I think what he's trying to get at is there a value differential with influencers? Because some people will say, I've got a ton of followers, macro versus micro. Is there a big fish in a small pond aspect sometimes to the influencer relationship?
That's a great, great, great question. I took some notes on this is something that I talk to my clients about all the time. I'm trying to find, okay, so there's mega influencers, macro, mid-tier, micro, and nano. Nano influencers actually can gain more engagement than mega influencers. Again, what's the purpose of the content, right? So nano influencers can have followers between 500 and 10,000 people. And I know that sounds like a really wide gap, but um my favorite wheelhouse is like 7,000 to 15,000 followers. I feel like we get just such great engagement from them. They're super accessible. A lot of them don't charge, or if they do charge, it's just a couple $100s, and it's really worth it when all is said and done. They have a little bit more time to devote as well and attention to give. They'll do a really good job with like coupon codes or discounts or whatever, or talk about like, hey, if you're in X town, all of these liquor stores are doing this special. There'll be a gift there for you, get them where they're gone, things like that. So you're going to get different things out of these different tiers of influencers. Um, Unfortunately, depending on the product that you make and how your brand is positioned, you're going to have to kind of try them out to see what works best for you. Really, like I think with any marketing and advertising, nothing is a guarantee. You kind of just have to see what works. So I would start out with the nano influencers. If you're in the whiskey and tequila space, you're going to probably already know a lot of these or have seen them or you follow them. Or maybe you've even sent them products. Just, a better understanding of how to work with them usually is what can change the game if you don't feel like you're getting a lot out of it.
Yeah, I would use the old bar analogy, right? Like you made bourbon, great. You want to be in this bourbon bar that has 5,000 bottles because it's a big, sexy, busy place.
Yep.
But you're actually going to sell more whiskey at Jimmy's Bar and Grill down the road, where you're one of
Yep.
8 bourbons instead of one of 3 or 4,000. So I completely,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you can catch those influencers that are up and coming and reward them early, you're also helping them to grow and they will love you forever for that. I've done that with a lot of influencers. The other thing I want to mention really quickly when we're talking about money and paying, here is a something that I really want to see people do more of, which is give them money to boost their posts. Okay? So you get about 3% of your followers that actually see your content. That's pretty much everybody. That sucks, right? That's the BS of the algorithms. So if you give them like say, hey, let me know when you've posted and I'm going to Venmo you $50 or whatever and you can boost it or $25. You do not have to spend much to boost posts. It might go out to another 20% of their followers. That helps them and you. So that's also a really great tool to use.
Budgets are hard because budgets expand and contract based on the budget allowed. But what do you think is a because you can't start with a pittance because that's not fair to anybody and it's not fair to you to expect anything. But you don't want to, unless you got the budget to do it, you don't want to start spending $1,000 a month on this particular zone of your marketing. Is there a benchmark based on somebody's current volume, or I know this is a kind of a tough abstract question because
Yeah.
my budget's changed over the years, and so I was able to spend more on things as the brand grew. But is there a general consensus of what's a place to start?
So the data says that businesses can earn an average of $5.78 for a dollar spent on influencer marketing. So that's pretty good, right? Again, it's about having clarity of what do you want and what do you expect from it, and have you set yourself up properly to get that. What I would say is if you're just starting out, start with your small influencers that will post just for the exchange of gifting of a bottle or a product. And think of this in a campaign way. If any of you, the people that are with us, follow influencers in the whiskey space, you probably know every time Woodinville puts out a new release because there'll be about 20 to 30 of us that all get a bottle within like the same 2 days, which is smart as heck. And all of a sudden, boom, 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 you'll see us all posting at around the same time. That's so smart because it's almost like all of a sudden you see that it's like, whoa, if you're someone that's engaged in whiskey on social media as a consumer, whoa, everybody's talking about Woodinville. Whoa, whoa, what's happening? I'm seeing it all over the place. That's so smart. And that's just them sending us bottles with some information. And we're excited to have these new limited releases. We get to have one of them. It also builds FOMO, right? So that's a campaign style. I recently worked with a brand that released something in collaboration with like a cult figure celebrity. And unfortunately, this celebrity doesn't dress up like the character anymore, which is a super bummer. And so we really knew we weren't going to get a lot of marketing help from them, but we knew this could be like a collector's item piece. And so I said, let's not spend money on influencers yet. Let's reach into the horror space outside of the alcohol space because I believed people were going to buy this bottle just to have it and collect it even if they didn't drink. And that's definitely what happened. And so we did a huge campaign and sent out these really cool cocktail boxes with the bottle in it and picked influencers we had never worked with. Wasn't much of a risk because they were just getting a box with the bottle in it, and it went so well that we had to make these freaking boxes for consumers. And then we ran out of one component in it, a candle. You guys put candles in your boxes. People go nuts over candles. I don't understand it, not in the candle business. And so then we had to make a secondary box and they all sold out. And it was a really successful campaign because we understood exactly what we were looking for and what we wanted out of it. And I also tested a new space. So again, to answer your question the best I can is I'm going to keep saying the same thing, which is know your goal, understand the space you're moving in, and test things out.
When when you recommend a nano influencer, can you give? Because one of the questions was, is there some benefit to going, regional rather than national, and
Mm.
to hyper focus on demographics? And I think I'm sure that's what you mean by nano influencer. But can you either talk a little bit more about that, or maybe give an example of somebody who's really zeroed in, and so people can understand how to identify that when they're looking for one?
Yeah, I would say you want to do both. So I have a database like, okay, this brand is in Texas. I'm going to go out there and make sure that I've looked through my database and I have a list that's like just Texas influencers. Texas is a huge state. I also go, okay, just Houston. Let's say if the brand's in Houston, Houston influencers. And so I work with them in a different way that I work with my national influencers, right? So I kind of see it as like I'm driving e-commerce with my national influencers and I'm driving local traffic, but they can do similar things. But I focus more on local traffic. Like I've got a brand in Seattle. We make sure that we're inviting people to their tasting room on a regular basis, to come and create content about going and visiting that space because that makes this client more money than e-commerce sales do, of course, right? So again, I have to ask my clients regularly, what do we need to focus on? And sometimes she'll go, I really need to drive traffic to the tasting room right now. That's got to be my focus this summer or whatever. Okay, that's what we're doing this summer. And so, I've seen brands do really cool things with local, let's pick a city like Chicago. So, again, depends on, make sure you check the liquor laws in your states if you're allowed to have gifts with bottles and incentivize people to go buy the bottles. Um, so you can have local influencers getting on social media and going, hey, check this out. This brand has a $20 Visa gift card at all, or not the brand, sorry, the store at all of these liquor stores, this chain. So go in there, get a bottle. You're going to get this $20 gift card that either you can use at the store or it's a Visa gift card, whatever is legal, right? And so there's some incentivizing for local traffic. And in that case, you definitely want to use Chicago influencers for a campaign like that. So pay attention to both of them and build relationships with both of them. And I will tell you, don't underestimate the value of how local influencers can drive traffic to your tasting room. Work on them with events. A lot of influencers are really great at events, especially if they're, travel influencers or, dining. I try to call them dining, not food influencers. Do you have someone that's a cocktail influencer? Have them get behind the stick one night, get behind your tasting bar one night and make cocktails. Can you imagine the traffic that will draw? So really just always thinking out of the box and thinking very hyper focused on what is their draw, who are they, and what purpose can we use them for?
Great. How, a lot or a little, how much should a brand either expect to or actively preview what someone that they hire to be an influencer posts? I mean, is it something that they should microscopically review? Do you give somebody your tone of voice and a couple of examples of things that you like and let them kind of go wild? How does that part of the relationship work, or should
N-
they
Never
work?
ask, never ask to preview anything ever,
Okay.
unless You have hired someone to create videos for you that you will post, right? Like almost hiring them like a voice actor, or, like as an actor. That's a different story. Fine, you own that content, but you can't, I mean, you can say, um, so we have sheets that we send out to all of our influencers that have an explanation of the campaign that's happening at the moment that they're involved in, what we're hoping to get out of it, some suggestions of things they can say or do with the posts. But that's really all you can do. It's up to them to create content because they have a brand too that, makes sense and is authentic for them. And you just got to be happy when they post it. And that's really as much control as you have over it. But again, that vetting, make sure that you are working with people that if you don't want them to talk about politics, make sure they don't talk about politics. Make sure they're not assholes. Make sure that they're not misogynists. Make sure that they are not going to give you a bad review if they're reviewers. I never do that. If I don't like something, I will either say, here's who would love this X spirit, like love this gin or whatever. I would not even say it's not for me. Or I will say, thank you so much. I'm not going to post about it. I didn't really care for it, whatever. I mean, I usually don't even like to do that unless they really ask me and want the information. That's different. But, again, that upfront vetting is going to tell you a lot. If you don't like their content, don't work with them because they're not going to make special content for you, especially if you're not paying them, but even when you are paying them. So, make sure you like what they post, you like the type of content they make, and that you feel like, yeah, that would be good for us. I'd like to be mentioned by this person.
So don't bring them into the fold if you don't like what they're doing, but don't expect to bring them into the fold and the backseat drive the shit out of them at all times.
Do not do that. They won't work with you again. And they all, by the way, they all have lists of brands they won't work with and agencies they won't work with because they've been stuff like that happens or they've been treated poorly. They won't divulge that, the good, professional
sure.
influencers and good people, but they have lists. Don't get on that list. They all talk
Got
to
it.
each other.
Got it. Sailor, thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing this. This has been great insight and great for everybody to hear. And I really appreciate your time and your dedication doing this.
Thanks.
To everybody on the webinar, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And once again, we'll have got another one of these next Monday that I'll be emailing everybody about. So thanks to everybody for being here. Sailor, thank you again so much. Oh, wait,
thank you.
There was one other question, which was your contact information. I'm going to give Sailor everybody's email. So Sailor, can you just send out an email to everybody so they've got your contact info if they have more questions or want to talk to you about
I'm really
anything?
easy to find. I'm sailorguevara.com. I'm so easy to find.
Well, there you go. Even easier. And if you can't find or whatever, everybody just email me and I'll send you on to Sailor. But Thanks again so much. I appreciate it and have a good rest of your Monday.
You got it. You too.
Bye.
Bye.